If you touch my drums, I will stab you in the neck with a knife!
The other day, a friend and I were discussing pirates and just how badass they were. Living out on the sea, independent from any other governing body other than themselves, looting and pillaging what they could to survive, and enjoying some extracurricular activities. Sex. Just talking about sex. You know, just being all around bamfs. Did you know that Blackbeard actually did weave ropes in his beard and light them on fire to intimidate his enemies? Man, that's a creative use of theatrics.
If a man plays the fool, then it's only fools he'll persuade, but appear to be the devil. And all men will submit.
And would you be the devil?
We're an audience.
Anyway, during our pirate conversation, Assassin's Creed Black Flag was brought up, and my friend had mentioned that he'd never played it. And without thinking, I told him, "Oh, dude, it's like the best Assassin's Creed game." Pretty innocuous comment, right? But then I thought about it. Is it? And if it is, why do I just automatically think that? I mean, there's been so many Assassin's Creed games, and the latest one, Odyssey, was amazing. I mean, it's pretty much been the ultimate culmination of more than a decade's worth of building and improving on the foundation of its many, many predecessors. Wouldn't that qualify as the best? Maybe Black Flag stands out to me as the best of the pre-Origins games, where they were still technically classified as action games and not the fantastic role-playing games they've now developed into. Nevertheless, have I taken the originators for granted? It's been so long since I've played them. Was Black Flag really that good, or was the end of the original trilogy so underwhelming that anything that came after it would have been adequate enough to keep the series alive? In any case, there's only one way to solve this mental predicament I've put myself in. I'm gonna have to reevaluate my relationship with the Assassin's Creed series, pre-Origins, mind you, to see which one I truly think ranks the highest. And that means playing all of them. Again, starting with the OG. You know, with all the remasters being made lately, Assassin's Creed games included, it's weird that they haven't remastered or even remade the original, and it really needs it. It's widely considered the worst of the bunch. When it first came out though, it was groundbreaking to some, but to others, it was a missed opportunity filled with repetitive gameplay and at times clunky mechanics. But I disagree, I think it was God shit. Didn't mean to do that. But seriously, I think, God damn it! I was aiming at the pole! God, why can't Altair swim? All those years of diligent training and no one thought, hey, maybe we should add swimming to our list of deadly skills. Shut up, Larry, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But quirky gameplay moments aside, Assassin's Creed did do some pretty remarkable things for the time. For one thing, the streets always felt alive and crowded, making the focus on stealth that much more Excuse me, miss, I don't have any money. Just get out of my get out of my way. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. We've been fighting monsters for so long. We've actually became one. And speaking of which, the game's star weapon, the Hidden Blade, has now and forever become a video game icon. I would say it's up there with the Master Sword, Cloud's Buster Sword, Mega Man's Mega Buster. Let's be real, not many games can take credit for having such a distinctive weapon more or less represent a whole game's identity so successfully that it ranks up there with the most notable of games. Another now famous staple of the series was the incorporation of lifelike freerunning. And while the freerunning and climbing sort of feels like a slog playing it now compared to the more recent games having many incremental improvements over time, at the time, it was one of the only, if not the only video games that I can think of that implemented that particular mechanic in an open world setting, bringing an almost unprecedented feeling of verticality to a lifelike world. And adding a damn fun combat system on top of that certainly helps cement its footing as one of a kind. Oh, yeah! Damn, you know what? Those mid-combat cutscenes are still dope as hell. After playing this again, I kind of missed the old combat system where it was more rhythmic in nature and patience and timing of your moves was most imperative. Well, the counter button was most imperative, I should say. But it really made you feel like a master of swordsmanship. And lest we forget, Assassin's Creed wasn't just known for its novel parkour gameplay, but also for its weird but fascinating storyline involving secret shadow governments, Matrix-like technology, and, well, aliens.
Someone came from the sky.
In a nutshell, the story starts off with an unassuming bartender named Desmond Miles being kidnapped by this mysterious group called Abstergo, and forces him to live out the memories of his 12th century assassin ancestor Altair via a machine called the Animus to locate some piece of ancient technology that Abstergo surely doesn't want to use for nefarious reasons. Admittedly, these present-day segments featuring Desmond became dull over the years, but now, after my memory being essentially cleansed of this whole storyline, and re-experiencing it all over again, I was reeled back into it. It eventually becomes apparent that Abstergo are the present-day version of the Knights Templar, and they of course want to control the world by essentially taking away people's free will by using the power of this ancient artifact that you've been tasked to find. And that the battle between the Assassins and the Templars is still raging to this day.
That little fight your ancestors started during the Third Crusade, it never ended.
Kristen Bell. Totally forgot she was in this.
Bullshit. You're being held by Templars.
Vidic's a Templar?
Vidic works for them, we all do. Abstergo is their company.
Now, you can say that the Templars are just your average run-of-the-mill evil entity with an ends justify the means mentality, a now tired storyline used in countless fictions, to be sure. However, what the original Assassin's Creed did that I really liked was plant the seeds of nuanced logic instead of the same old good guy versus bad guy trope, making the player question if the cause that the Assassins are fighting for is really that different than the Templars. For example, every main target you killed in the game confessed in their dying breath that they were unapologetic for what they were doing and that they fought for peace. Same as you, just by using different methods. You get a chance to see the enemy in a light in which you can sympathize to a degree the logic behind their actions.
Freedom? You worked to overthrow cities, control men's minds, murdered any who spoke against you.
I followed my orders, believing in my cause. Same as you.
The sequels would become more of a personal revenge tale, picking up with Ezio, but the main overarching theme of the entire series started with this game. That the battle for peace isn't necessarily good versus evil, but by opposing ideologies clashing for the same end goal.
They are the bad guys, right?
If there's one thing I've learned since I started working here, it's that there's no such thing. It's all so relative.
I can't help but be reminded of one of my favorite quotes from Final Fantasy VIII. Right and wrong are not what separate us and our enemies. It's our different standpoints, our perspectives that separate us. Both sides blame one another. There's no good or bad side, just two sides holding different views. Anyway, when you get to the ending as Altair, you realize that your teacher, Al-Mualim, the guy that's been giving you all these targets to eradicate, is actually a Templar himself. Yeah, kinda saw that coming. But what I didn't see coming way back when was this, where you actually see that this ancient artifact looks like an alien piece of technology with unimaginable powers. And couple that with the very last part of the game, where Desmond in the real world somehow now has the eagle vision ability, a superpowered sixth sense just like his ancestor Altair, and finds hidden writings all around the same place Desmond's been imprisoned this whole time. Writings written in blood. But whose blood? It's a pretty fun ending that I can still appreciate, especially as a fan of shows like Lost or The Leftovers. I would of course be remiss if I didn't mention the use of fictionalized versions of actual historical characters and events. And if you're a historical hobbyist, as I sometimes am, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, seriously, check it out. You found this incredibly compelling. The sequels would later compound on this shtick, and it would eventually become yet another staple the series would be known for. In the first game, the Altair storyline takes place during the 12th century Crusades, right in the middle of the conflict between the Sultan of Egypt, Saladin, and King Richard of England. So we know the Crusades really happened. Was there really an assassin order during the Crusades? Yes! They were called Hashashins. I am hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And they did have a leader known as Al-Mualim, translated in English as the Teacher, who was also known as the Old Man of the Mountain. They were in fact highly trained, especially in the art of stealth, also bunkered down in mountain fortresses, and they were often successful in their assassination attempts on crusaders and Islamic leaders alike. No evidence of a hidden blade, sadly, and they didn't wear a uniform. That wouldn't be really stealthy after a while, now would it?
Perhaps. Or perhaps they do not know you because you are not a man of God, but an assassin!
Bruh. But anyway, this game is chock full of people who actually existed. Garnier de Nebula, Robert de Sable, and Conrad of Nosferatu, just to name a few. The factual accuracy kind of stops there though, as they are basically just characters serving the fictional story rather than being true to history. But nevertheless, it actually did bring in a sort of unique edutainment edge. I always thought that Ubisoft should make a game with the assets of Assassin's Creed, but completely leave the fiction out of it and utilize the gameplay and environments to teach what really happened according to the historical record. That would be a pretty fun experiment. Regardless of the factual accuracy, with every body you dropped, with every mission you completed, it always left you wondering if there was ever any truth to it all. Alright, so where am I thought-wise after re-entering the Assassin's Creed world straight from the beginning? Well, for one thing, I was reminded of the impact this game had on me. For all these years, it's become such a normal addition to my gaming life that I forgot that the melding of shadow governments, secret assassin orders, actual historical events, and fun parkour gameplay didn't really exist pre-2007. To be honest, I was kind of dreading playing this game again, but I actually had fun with it. It's been so long since I've played it that it was actually kind of new to me. But considering all the improvements that they're going to make in the later sequels, it's hard for me to rank this game any higher than the lowest of the trilogy. You know, that being said, it wouldn't be awful for it to get a new coat of paint one of these days. Assassin's Creed is iconic. Really. Just like Zelda, Metal Gear, Mega Man, Grand Theft Auto, not many video game companies can say they created a game with such a footprint in the community that other games that came after it would be compared to it. This first game created building blocks for something that ended up being really special. And it wasn't until the sequel that we all realized that Assassin's Creed wasn't just a fun little game with decent ideas, but a start to one of the greatest series of games ever to be made.